I got a chance to watch the Charlo versus Castano fight again this weekend. I've been posting it on my social media. Follow me on Twitter at T Street Contras right there on the screen, and I'm also back on Instagram. So I was explaining that during the fight. Now, when I'm watching the fight, there's nobody around. I don't have my girl around. You know, my daughter. I try to get her in bed, but this night was different. It was a long day, birthday party in the morning. Let's move on. Around round 9, it was round 9, my daughter on top of my head. So I go to check the camera, see what she's doing. Turns out, you know, if you're fathers, you know what this means. Like, her tablet died. So I go upstairs, come down, I see Charlo getting some hands put on him. Well, let me go read the scorecards to you first, and that's a good way to start. Now, pause the video if you have to and take a look over this, but I'm going to talk over it. Okay, so Stephen Weisfeld scored the fight 114-113 for Castaño. He gave rounds 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 to Castaño. But then he scored round number 10, a 10-8 round in favor of Charlo. Now, understand there was no knockdown, but I'm guessing that he didn't like the way Castaño got on his bike and was running around the ring after he got hurt. But still, it's very rare for a judge to score a 10-8 round. Now, if that wasn't the case, his card would have been a draw. Now, me personally, after rewatch, I did give round number 9 to to Castaño, and I did say that for Charlo to win that fight on my card, he had to win those last 4 rounds. He had to sweep him. And we're going to listen to a clip from Derek James and from Charlo, a question asked by now of ESPN's, formerly of The Athletic, formerly of LA Times, Mike Coppinger, about that. So the other judge, Nelson Vasquez, the most controversial card, the type of card that has fans and even media, fighters crying corruption. 117-111 for Charlo. He only gave Castaño 3 rounds. Round number 3, that was the round where Charlo was buzzed and actually rocked and held up by the ropes. Round number 7 and round number 9. This is ridiculous card. Tim Cheatham scored the fight a draw. You can sit there. I'm not going to go through the particulars, but basically, you know, one thing that's consistent on all 3 cards is they all gave rounds 10, 11, and 12 to Castaño. To Charlo, even I did. But I guess what we're here to say is, I think that Castaño won the fight. And I'm not in the minority. And normally I don't go back and review fights. It's very rare that I go back and review fights. The last fight I could remember reviewing and changing my score on in some capacity, even though I still had Tyson Fury winning, I could remember it being Wilder Fury won. It may have been some fights after that, but I rarely do this. So we got my colleague Big J on the line, and let me read this tweet before we go on this Instagram post from Jermell Charlo that he posted yesterday that gives some fans, that gives us fans and media some hope that the rematch will happen. Brian Castaño was one hell of a better fighter than anyone gave him credit for, and he came to fight for his life Saturday. If fights are scored as a whole, I landed the harder and better shots, but boxing isn't scored that way. Boxing is scored round by round. I've always said to take a belt from a champion, you need to take the belt, and the judges felt neither of us did enough to take other belts. Oh, he's got some typos here. All right, let me start over. All right, Brian Castaño was one hell of a better fighter than anyone gave him credit for, and he came to fight for his life Saturday. If fights are scored as a whole, I landed the harder, better shots, but boxing isn't scored that way. Boxing is scored round by round. I've always said to take the belt from a champion, you have to take the belt, and the judges felt neither of us did enough to take those other belts. There you go. They ruled a draw. I don't want to become undisputed by a narrow, controversial decision. I want to make a statement. I didn't do my part to get the KO, and as always, I will continue to learn and improve. We will run it back, just like I adjusted in Harrison 2. There will be no doubt about the result. Lions only for life. So before we move on to the next segment of the video, and we talk about the politics and what has to happen for the rematch to happen and when it needs to happen, Big J, let's talk about the fight. So, did you watch it? Where was it broadcast over in Australia?
Yeah, g'day, mate. How you going? It was broadcast on Fox Sports, channel 507. Kicked off at 11 a.m. Sorry, my voice is a bit husky. But anyway, I've watched it 2-3 times, and I thought Castaño did enough to get a very, very narrow win. I mean, in round 3, Charlo was in all sorts of shit, and if it wasn't for the bell, he probably would have got knocked down, if not knocked out. So that's. I thought that 70% of that fight, Charlo was on the back foot. So,
and what was the keys for you to Castaño's victory on your cards?
He controlled the pace of the entire fight. Castaño was in control of that fight, right up until probably about round 10, which Charlo won all 3 last rounds, right? But Castaño just kept coming at him, controlled the pace of the fight, kept pressuring him, outboxed him, outmaneuvered him. He chased Charlo around for a good 4 or 5 rounds. Those middle rounds all belong to Castaño. Pretty much from round 3, that's where he controlled the fight right up until about round 10. So those 6 rounds there, that's what got him over. And I thought, it wasn't a huge win, but 114, 113 was a very fair card. Draw, absolutely. As Charlo said, I agree with what he said, neither man really did do enough to take the belt off the other one. That's a fair comment. But that 117, 111, that was bullshit. What the fuck was that? But the less said about that, the better. But, very, very close fight. And I don't think anyone could argue with a straight face and say that Charlo won that fight. You could argue Castaño won it, but you could not argue Charlo won. You couldn't say that with a straight face. You're either delusional, you're either delusional or you haven't got a fucking clue what he's talking about. So,
I had that feeling like when I came back and I was watching the fight and I did my post-fight and even the post-fight show, I was like, this is one of those I gotta go back and watch, because you really have to. This is one of those fights where you gotta watch these rounds because it's undisputed. It's for the WBC, WBA, IBF, WBO Ring Magazine for undisputed. You want to give this fight all the attention you can. And I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I've always believed that fighters can rise up to the level of the fight. I've always thought that Brian Castaño was a good fighter. And of course, you've heard about his amateur experiences by beating guys like Errol Spence. Yes, I don't count amateurs and I don't count sparring and all that crap. But the point I'm trying to make is he's always been a very, very good fighter. I did not at 1 minute expect for this to be an easy fight. I've been covering the Charlos, both of them, for damn near 10 years now. We've already saw what Brian Castaño brought to the table against Soro and brought to the table against Lara. But for a fight like this, you have to expect another undefeated fighter with all that's on the line to be the first ever undisputed champion in the 4-belt era from Argentina. I expected for him to have this type of fight. And in a rematch, which we're going to talk about later on in the video, I do feel Charlo can make the better adjustments. He's just got to keep it in the ring, stay off the ropes. What's your thoughts on what adjustments can be made in the rematch for fourth? Let's start with Charlo first.
All Charlo needs to do is take the fight to him from the opening bell. He was on the back foot for 70% of that fight. The first round was just a complete feel-out round. There was nothing going on. I felt that if Charlo, the real way to win a fight is to take it to him from the opening bell. Just like Jeff Horn did to Pacquiao. As soon as that bell rings, bang, you got 50 into him. That's the way. Get them off track. Get them off their game. In the first 30 seconds, you've got the massive advantage. That's how you win a fight. Charlo didn't do enough. He was on the back foot. Right? He was in trouble in round 3, but. Yeah, I was thinking, even the commentators say, what are we waiting for? Why is he hesitant? What's he afraid of? So you could clearly see that he was intimidated by Castaño because the way he was acting. He was on the back foot. He was backing up. He was picking. He's trying to counter punch. He's a hell of a counter puncher. But he should have took the fight to Castaño because he's the bigger guy, he's the heavier guy. He probably hits better. So in the rematch, that's what he needs to do. What Castaño did to him, and he'll probably dominate it pretty easily, like he did with Jason Rosario. Look what he did to him.
Yeah,
smashed his guts to pieces.
Yeah, he allowed
body shots.
He did allow Brian Castaño to control the tempo. And one thing I loved about Brian Castaño is he was very patient. If you can see, he's a very calculated, pressure fighter. And he was looking for that uppercut of Charlo. You can tell, like, he would feint in and back out. You can tell he studied the tape and he took this fight very seriously, as he should have. It's fucking undisputed, as he should have. But for Castaño, what chances are you giving him in the rematch? And because I got to be honest, from what I've learned on social media, and I feel the exact same way, the fight that reminds me of the most at how the rematch can go is Mayweather versus Maidana 2. Mayweather in the first fight didn't take Marcos Maidana seriously. I talked about it. I was screaming to the high heavens. I was on another channel at the time. I covered Mayweather Maidana 1 on one channel, and then I transitioned to this channel for Mayweather Maidana 2. And same thing I said about Bro, and I said, yo, this Marcos Maidana, he's not coming in the box. He's going to come out there and try to put a boot in, Floyd's ass. So what did Floyd do? Looks like Floyd didn't take him seriously in the first fight. You see Floyd all on the ropes getting mauled, getting his arms all beat up. You can say, okay, well, a lot of that stuff wasn't hitting. People count punches as being hit on like the body and the head. But imagine, like, if you're getting punched in the arm, and in the dick and in the hips and in the neck, like it starts to wear and tear on you after a while. But what did Mayweather do in the second fight? He had a brand new bike. I'm talking about he was moving. So, in your opinion, what can Castaño do in the rematch? I'm guessing turn up the pressure, but I don't know. I'm gonna let you take it away before we go listen to this clip from the post-fight press conference from Charlo and from the trainer of Derek James.
Castaño, I really think all he needs to do in the rematch to win it is really just up the pressure again. I think he just needs to be more flamboyant than what he was in the first fight, and just, as I said, the one that goes after the other one first and goes after him hard, they'll win the fight. I'm surprised Charlo didn't use body shots. He barely hit him in the body.
Yeah, and his body shots were good.
So Castaño, I don't really think there's much Castaño could do in the rematch to change, because his plan in this fight was pretty much spot on. He did exactly what he needed to do. He scared the shit out of Charlo and pretty much everyone else, because most people I spoke to thought, yeah, Charlo will walk in there and kick the shit out of him, which was not the case. So he scared the hell out of Charlo. So Charlo's going to come back tenfold next fight. Yeah. And Castaño just needs to really up it again. He needs to up he needs to up another 3 gears, do exactly the same thing he did in the first fight, and it'll be another close fight. I mean, in all honesty, I see, either man can knock the other out, and I think it'll be a body punch. Whoever gets in that first huge body shot, because they both prove that they're both great body punchers. Look what Castaño did to Charlo. How many times he smacked him in the ribs or his liver?
Yeah, and the shots were loud.
Yeah, you could hear them. Thump, thump. So I don't think Castaño needs to really, obviously he needs to change his game, but it depends what Charlo does in the rematch. But as I said, just get in there first and get that first big shot in, just like Teofimo did to Loma in their fight. He got the big shot in first, scared the shit out of Loma, got the fight won by round 7. So that's what they need to do. Whoever gets in those big shots first will win the fight.
All right, so before we move on to our second half of the video, let me give a few plugs here and let you guys know what's going on. So T Street Controversy and Fight V360 content is going to start soon, very soon, being featured on a new venture by the WBC, where they're launching a 24-hour boxing network. There's going to be fights, my content, half-hour shows, hour shows from me, other YouTubers, other podcasters, some really, really big things in place. They're powered by the Vive network. I'm in training every day, rebuilding my brand, revamping, getting the PC, everything right. So just bear with us as we're transitioning, especially since July, this week was supposed to be Fury versus Wilder 3. That's been postponed. So these next, we're going to say 3 weeks, is pretty dead in the boxing community outside of fight announcements, but no real marquee fights until August the 14th with Guillermo Rigondeaux versus John Rio Casimiro. And then also on that very next week, Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence. So we're going to take a jump cut here. We're going to jump right into the second half of the video, talk about the politics, how the rematch can happen next, who's the mandatory, and we're going to hear from Derek James and Charlo at the post-fight press conference. Please subscribe, take your time out. Oh, and before we take this break, also be sure to go follow, tell them your Twitter handle, Big J.
Oh, mate, Big J. Simple as that.
Please subscribe. We'll be right back.
Congrats on a hell of a fight. It was one of the best fights of the year, in my opinion. And, it was a dogfight, like you said. But, Derek did tell you needed a knockout late in the fight. Obviously, you're just in a big fight, so you don't know how it was scored. But do you feel like maybe the draw was fair, or?
I actually feel like, I don't know how they came out with, honestly, I think that, it was a closer fight than it seems. If somebody had it like 117, 111, I do feel that I won a little bit more rounds than he did. 117, 111 was kind of a large range. But I do feel that there's no way possible that you could just 114, 114, you know what I'm saying? So, not to take anything away from what Brian Castaño did, but I feel like I pushed a lot harder tonight than he did. He wasn't running in there trying to be the Brian Castaño he was. I took him out of his game plan. If they really knew who Brian Castaño was and how he actually fights and threw 1,100 punches, from how I did it, I don't think that, I think I did a better performance than a lot of people that fought him. I didn't see, Erislandy Lara wobbling him all over the ring. I didn't see Tejera do anything like that. I felt like I did way better than, And Derek told me in the ninth round, hey, you got to knock him out. Fuck, what you talking about? What you talking about? Knock him out. I'm beating his ass. But then I'm like, I got to think about it. I'm in the state of Texas. The judging, they had fair judges, I guess. They was from all over the place. Referee was Panama, I wish I would have got somebody, I don't know, bro. It's with a guy with the eyes that look all crazy and shit. He'd be really.
He's talking about Steve Willis, the referee. So basically what he's saying, if you guys don't understand, by the way, we're back. I know it was a jump cut for you guys, but for us, we took some time to regroup. He's talking about Steve Willis. Steve Willis, the referee, crazy eye. So he's saying that he wish he had a referee like that to influence the judges off of his facial expressions. And a lot of people in the past have talked about even though we all love Steve Willis, should he be all extra animated like that? But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull up the punch stats here and to bring up, before we listen to the second half of and what Derek James has to say, when he talking about how Teixeira didn't look, Teixeira didn't make Castaño's punch output be low, Lara didn't, with a high profile fight like this throughout history, fighters are much more, educated, and they have more respect, to where I expected for the punch volume, to go down, because, for one, that is Charlo. But to Charlo's credit, there was that factor where Castaño respected him. So I'm going to try to pull up these punch stats here to see what the percentage and exactly how many punches were thrown. Shout out to Greg Domino over at Showtime. So yeah, let me pull up these punch stats for you guys so you can look at them on the screen. Big J, you want to add anything while I'm pulling this up?
Well, I'll be very interested to see, going off the percentages, didn't Castaño have a higher hit percentage than Charlo?
Yeah, I got him on the screen right now. Let me looking for total punches, full punch stat report. Okay. So Castaño landed 173 of 586. That's at 29.5%. Charlo, right. 151 of 533, 28.3. Still nonetheless high punch percentage. Higher punch percentage.
So
now, when it comes to the
what was that again?
I'm sorry?
So 29% versus 28, is that correct?
Yeah, well, round it off, 30% for Castaño, 28 for Charlo.
Well, that's a reflection of the 114, 113 card, isn't it? I mean, that's a pretty accurate reflection of that.
Yeah, pretty much. And and of course, Castano was not a jabber. 9 jabs of 186. That's at 4.8%. Extremely crazy low. As far as Charlo, 53 of 287 at 18.5%. Now here's the power punches. 98 of 246 for Charlo at 40%, but still 164 of 400 for Castano. That's 41%. So, they both are in the same race, but for both fighters to land that high percentage of power punches, that's a lot.
Yeah, but once again, it's a reflection of that 114, 113 card, which Castano just nudged him. Just nudged him.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, it wasn't a beat the shit out of him win. It was got him, as they say. It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. So, thank you, Vin Diesel. Fucking, it just nudged him. So, based on those stats, 114, 113 in Castano's favor is completely justified.
Yeah, so by the way, you can pause that if you want to, guys, to finish looking at that. So, let's go back and listen to Derek James and what he had to say.
Really into that shit, like, he's known for that. He's okay with it. Shout out to him. He okay with it. He knows that he he let the judges know like that was a good shot. Like I blocked a lot of shots that people probably thought I got hit with. A lot of shots slid off. It was a stunning fight.
You've said it many times in the past that you needed to fight someone better to show everyone what you really have. And I think it's clear now that Brian Castaño is by far the best guy you've ever fought. Mm-hmm. He was in control for a lot of the early part of the fight. Obviously, you dug down deep and landed those big shots in round 10 to turn the tide. But how much better do you think you can become now that you fought someone like this?
I don't think he was the best fighter he ever fought.
Oh, Derek, go ahead.
Even though you didn't ask me a question, I don't think he was the best fighter he ever fought. He only had...
Who's better than him?
He only had his way when Jermell... Wait. He only had his way when Jermell stayed in one spot on the ropes and was doing this. Other than that, he's not the best fighter he ever fought. I think Tony Harrison was probably better than him.
Tony Harrison did better than Brian Castaño?
Yeah, listen, man, what you talking? The shots he was throwing, he was not landing those punches. Listen, that guy.
I like Derek James, but he kind of tripping.
He was not landing those shots.
For sure.
And he only tried to win the last round. Go ahead. Put like this. Castaño fight spurts. He fought in spurts tonight. He didn't fight the
All right, next.
I feel like
question.
he tried to win the end of the round every round though.
He tried to steal the end of the round.
We got Keith. Keith.
Jermell, you obviously hurt him pretty badly in the 10th round. How close did you feel? That
Only the 10th?
Well, that was the most obvious time.
The obvious, the second, or when I feel like I hurt him more than 3 times. Yeah. I mean, I seen him, his legs wobble a few times. Well, go ahead, my bad.
How close did you feel you were to getting him out of there at that point? And did you feel he was still hurt in the beginning of the 11th round?
Of course, that's what I'm saying. So, if I went into the 10th round, he was, like belligerent all over the ring, like barely could stand up. I don't know. I just couldn't get him out of there. You know what I'm saying? The dude was tough. He was tough as fuck. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I wanted. I wanted a warrior. I faced a warrior, and I knew what I was getting in there with. Undefeated fighter. Come on, this is not something that everybody looking at it like, shit. I fought a hard fighter. So for anybody that don't really know the skills of Jermell Charlo, maybe y'all can go back over and add Jermell Charlo to your pound per pound list.
Yeah, that's something we could talk about before we go into the rankings. But I want to say this. I like Derek James, but Charlo didn't win that fight. And he can say that, I'm guessing what he's saying is that Harrison is a better fighter overall than Castaño, but he didn't put up a better fight. I'm sorry. In my opinion, I was there ringside for Charlo versus Harrison 1 and Jermell Charlo versus Matvey Korobov. I had Jermell Charlo defeating Tony Harrison, and I did go back and replay and watch that fight too because I was there at ringside and then I watched it again at home like twice. I did have Charlo winning the fight against Tony Harrison, and I actually had Jermell Charlo losing. But in regards to, his comments there, he's a very smart trainer. In my opinion, he would have been trainer of the year last year if Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence took place in December. But going forward in a rematch, and Big J, you was talking about it, you can jump in here, is I think that Derrick James is a smart enough trainer and Charlo is a good enough boxer under the tutelage of Derrick James to make major adjustments in the rematch. Your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're going to make major adjustments. They're going to go back and say, okay, we slacked. Charlo knows he slacked off during that fight. When the commentators pick it and say, how come you were so reluctant to throw a punch? If a commentator can pick it, that's pretty much cut right.
And you had Derrick James telling him in the corner he was losing the fight. Telling him, you need a knockout.
Exactly.
Like, he was telling him, and also Derrick James was telling him what to do. You got to stay off the ropes. I'm pretty much paraphrasing. Everything he's getting from you or getting to you, you're giving him. He was telling Charlo these type of things, and it's true because Charlo would get on the ropes and then Castano would start lighting his ass up. That's fact. Like, nobody's arguing that. And I'm going to go ahead and say, because we're short on time before we have to move on to the rankings and who's next and the rematch, is that I'm going to go ahead and say that I got Charlo in the rematch, the adjustments, and he just has to listen, stay off the ropes.
Absolutely, because Charlo, has Castaño ever had a rematch with anybody? No? No, okay, so Charlo's been in this situation before. So he will come back tenfold because he'll look at himself, he'll get upset with himself. He knew that he slacked off, and he'll be like, nah, fuck that. I'm not doing that a second time. And he'll come back hell for leather. Absolutely. So, yeah, he needed that little bit of a kick in the ass to, wake up to himself because he really did slack off. It was, the same Charlo that fought Rosario probably would have belted Castaño in, 6 rounds?
Yeah.
If that? Yeah, he would have destroyed him. So, he'll be back bigger, badder than next time. And I don't see how Castaño gets past a fully switched on, to use a military term, Charlo.
All right, so we got to move on. Here's how the 154-pound division is right now. WBC champion is in WBA and IBF. Of course, we just talked about it, Jermell Charlo. He has a mandatory that he has to fulfill against a guy who's fought on 2 of his undercards, untelevised, Bakhram Murtazaliev. He is the IBF mandatory. He fought on the Charlo versus Castano undercard against Akari Gray, winning by decision, reported by Keith Idek here, one of the many I follow and rely on their content from a boxing scene. So he's been mandated the IBF for quite some time, and we don't know what the IBF is going to do, whether they're going to do a interim fight. Let's say, for example, right now, you have in the IBF, Murtazaliev ranked number 1, Kuke ranked number 2, Tim Tszyu ranked number 3. Now, if Murtazaliev chooses, he can take more step-aside money and fight maybe a Jack Kuke, Tim Tszyu, on the Charlo versus Castano undercard for that interim, Charlo Castano 2 undercard for that interim title. Or he can just say, you know what, fuck that bullshit. I've been waiting for a long time. I see something in Jermell Charlo I can beat. I want my title shot now. But money talks and bullshit walks. In regards to the WBC, Erickson Lubin is the next mandatory after that. And in regards to Brian Castaño, he currently doesn't have a mandatory. And if Charlo Castano 2 were to happen, it would have to be in December, or before December, and they have to work out something with the IBF and the WBO. But unfortunately, we're going to have to make this video a part 2 because we only have 30 minutes here if this video is going to be featured on the WBC channel. So I'm going to wrap up right here, and we're going to jump right into things tomorrow morning at this time. And we're going to release the next video after this because we still have so much we got to talk about in regards to Tim Tszyu, Michael Demac-Kaburnov, more about the 154-pound division, possibly Danny Garcia moving up, rumors of Tim Tszyu and Tony Harrison. Big J, we're going to wrap up right here. I'm T Street Controversy with FightView360.com and the WBC channel powered by the Vive Network. You can follow me at T Street Contra and simple as that, Old Make Big J on Twitter. Please subscribe.